Hello, it's me again. You see me? So, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to um I'm going to have a look at some markets. Okay? So, I've been mentioning what I think about the world economy. I've already, I've explained who I am. I'm God. My name's Grant. Yeah, God grant me. Yeah, I'm God. Um, so I thought we can have a look at um some charts. Let's have a look and see what the future looks like in terms of markets. So this is the FTSE 100. So hopefully you can see that well enough. I mean, this is a very long time frame. So currently we're up here. Okay, let me just delete all this. So get rid of that. There we go. Okay. So um, I was born back in 1987. So back about here. Yeah, 1987. And obviously the markets have had a nice run up. Okay, so there was this, this was pretty much, this part here. Okay, so this is where, you had this big run up, and now it's a sideways movement, basically. But obviously it plays out like this. Okay, um, so I mean, it's not looking good for the future, in my opinion. Well, yeah. The FTSE 100 doesn't look like it's going to be very good over the next 5 years. So I'll explain to you why I think that. Okay. I mean, it's interesting to say that because if you actually look at the chart here, this green line here, that's the current price. Okay. Up here it's at 8,253. And that's one of the highest. That's some of the, that's, you know what I mean? This is all time high territory for the FTSE 100, obviously. Um, but once you take, obviously, well, you know what inflation is, don't you? Yeah, you've heard of inflation. Um, I mean, if you think the economy's great, well, yeah, whatever, right? Um, anyways, see, there are clear patterns on here. Okay, so this big move up, this is basically called wave one. Okay, wave one, and we're in wave two. So wave one is a big move up, and wave two is a correction. So wave two is it's sideways movement, basically. So you see there's a pattern here in the middle. Okay, so this is called an ABC. This is a flat. That's the name of it's called, right? So it's called a flat. And this is this is all correction here. So it's an A, and this turns into another flat here. So it's like an a B, and then a C. So it's very likely price is going to come down like this. Okay, you know you could see prices in this sort of area, right? Anywhere around here. Okay, and obviously that could be half of what it is today. Okay, and obviously if the FTSE 100 is cut in half, yeah, if prices fall this far down, well, it's not going to be very good, is it? Yeah. Um, think of how bad that could be for, employment and credit and debt and all the money that you owe to the bank or whoever, right? So, this is, this, you see, this drop here corresponds with this drop here, okay? And we've already had this big move down. So this suggests that this trend could keep continuing, okay? This downtrend here corresponds to this downtrend here. Okay, just like this one here corresponds it corresponds to this one here. Okay? This is an A and this is a C. Like it is here. This is an A and this is a C. You see, it's an A, B, C. An A, B, C is like this. It goes A, C, like that. It has one straight move, and then it has the bit in the middle, and then it has another bit at the end, okay? So it's something like that, okay? But anyways, I'm just trying to explain, okay? So yeah, it doesn't look good for the future for the FTSE 100. I think the next 5 years, it's looking down. And it'll probably, it could probably test this area down here, which is about, it's basically, you're looking at a 25%, 30% drop, perhaps. It might not be that bad, or it could be. It might not drop as far. It could just drop halfway down here, and then it could take off again. But there's the potential for it looking very badly. Okay, is what I'm telling you. And the fact is, it could be even worse. It could, this could go past. It could go even further. Do you know what I mean? It could come down all the way like that if it wanted to. It doesn't have to stop here. It doesn't have to stop. It could keep going if it really wanted to. It could go all the way to zero. It's true. It could. But the most likely is it'll probably come. The most likely situation is it will come to about this area, and then it will bounce. But it's this is 5 years in the making. It's probably. Anyways, at least 3 or 4 years, 3, 4, 5 years. So that's the FTSE 100. Okay, and then we can have a look at the S&P 500. Okay, so that's a USA, United States of America stock indices. Okay. Let's see if I can. We'll go here. So look, if I look at this on the monthly chart. Okay, I'll take this off of here. Don't need that. So this is the thing. Okay, I was born. Okay, so I was born in 1987. Let's figure out when that was. Okay, so that would have been about here on the chart. Okay, and you notice how this chart is just gone up, 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 up. Yeah, that's called a parabolic climb. Do you know what happens after a parabolic climb like that? Yeah, well, all kinds of things could happen. It just really depends how bad things go. But obviously, when the market's climbed like that, when that sort of thing has happened, you can see enormous. You can see, it could come down like this. You know, it could hold these sort of levels. You know, it could stay up here. You know, and even that's quite a long drop. Yeah, I mean that's not small at all. But you know, that can come down like that. You know, I mean that's more than half. You know, I mean that's like 60 to 70%. Yeah, that's the kind of, you know, that's devastating. Yeah, you know, that will make a lot of people homeless, unemployed, poor. I mean, and this is the thing, right? For the past 37 years since I've been alive, there's never been a situation like this. In fact, I don't think there's ever been a situation, you know what I mean? I mean, look at all the history behind, do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, this is the thing, you know, man decided he wanted to print money, you know, he wanted quantitative easing. You know, man decided he wanted to go off the gold standard and, you know, he wanted to print paper money into oblivion, basically. Um, you know, how bad is this going to get, do you think? You know, like, you know, this could be so bad, you know, how do you know something like this couldn't be the cause for World War III? You know, there's the possibility. Um, and the fact is, you have to understand that this entire situation, all of this, has happened over the last 37 years. Yeah? So you can expect the next 40 years to be like, well, you can expect 40 years of, do you know what I mean? Like, the chances of this going higher than here, you probably have to wait another 40 years for that to happen. At least. So it's, you know, that might happen in your lifetime. It may never happen in your lifetime. You might die well before then. You understand? Like, this is how serious this situation is. Okay? Now, if you don't know much about. I mean, this is the thing, right? Because most people, they don't look at long term charts. Do you know what I mean? They look at this. They look at something like this, right? This is what most people look at. They see something like that on a chart. They think, oh yeah, look, you know, it's a little bit up, it's a little bit down, whatever, right? It's no big deal. But if you go out and you go look at a long time frame, you know, you kind of see just how crazy the situation is. And this is not unique to the S&P 500, obviously, because it's the same on every stock indices in the US, basically. I mean, look at the Nasdaq, you know, that's all the technology stocks. That one's even crazier. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same story. It's exactly the same thing playing out. And then you got the Dow Jones Industrial Average. If I can get the screen, yeah. I mean, it's the same story all over again. Yeah. Um, you know, what are you gonna do about it? You know, this is the thing. People need to realize that it's game over. Okay? I'm God. The world has been trying to run away from me. Okay, the world, what it likes to do is it wants to turn its back to me. It wants to pretend that I don't exist while the world pretends that it is God. And that they can do what they want to do. Well, this isn't working, is it? It's not going to work. People will not survive without me. Plain and simple. So, I mean, I've looked at these charts to, try to figure out whether this could in fact go up a little bit more. And I'm quite certain that's finished with. I'm quite certain that this, I think we've reached the top. I think the top is already in, basically. And, all things considered, I think that's probably the case. And, people should be aware of just how bad the situation could be. So, if you think shopping, going to the supermarket, if you think it's expensive now, well, how expensive is it going to be next year? So, it's an interesting thing to think about. I'm trying to think. Hang on a second. Can I find? Oh, I found a chart. Hang on. SH comp. Can I find it? Oh. I'm looking for the Shanghai Composite Index. I mean, I know what it looks like anyway, but the fact is that the Shanghai Composite Index, I have to say, I'm not overly familiar with China's stock market, but my understanding is that China has a lot of room for growth. You see, the thing about China's stock market is that it already had its fall ages ago. Okay? And because it had its fall ages ago, it's got room to go up. And the thing is about that is that, well, when I look at US stock indices, it looks like it's a very negative, it looks like there's only room for downside. So to me, that tells me that, most likely money is going to be leaving America and probably going to somewhere like China. Probably. That would be my best guess. So, you know, um, what Donald Trump is doing, well, to me, he just looks like a complete clown. Basically. So, yeah. Okay, so we're going to have a look at gold. Okay, so gold is an interesting chart. I wouldn't suggest, the thing is like, the thing is with this, right? So, so when I analyze charts, I use something called Elliott's wave theory. And in Elliott wave theory, you have it's a set of 5 waves. So you have an up, a down, and then another up, and then a down sideways movement, and then another up. Okay? So that would be called a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. Okay? That's called an impulse wave. Okay? And then the thing is, after you've had your impulse wave, you see this one here, that is the first impulse wave. You see, within that, there are 5 waves, just like the bigger one. It's just that it's on a smaller time frame. So basically, what you're getting see if I can get rid of all this. Hang on. So basically, oh, come on. So in this chart of gold, you've got a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. You see? Now, if you want to know what happens after number 5, well, all you have to do is look at number 1. Okay? So this is number 1, right? So where that line I've just drawn, that would have been number 5, but it's on the smaller time frame. If I zoom in, so you can see it, yeah, it's all the same. It's just, it's on a smaller time frame. Yeah, you see what happens after a parabolic climb. Yeah, you see the market goes up. The market goes up. Yeah, so you got a 1, a 2, you got a 3, probably to about there. It's got a small 4 in there, and a big 5 that came up. And then it had a massive drop, and it came up, and it went down, and it's up and down, up and down, up and down, all the way down. So, that's the kind of carnage, you know what I mean? Like, if you're looking at US stock indices, well, guess what can happen? That is something you've probably not seen in your life. What you're about to see could be extremely bad. So, are you prepared for that kind of situation? Like I've explained, I'm God. I'm well aware of this situation. And it's this is the thing. It's working in my it's for my it's for my advantage. Because if people, this is the thing. People's lives need to be, that's the thing. People are interested in television and Netflix and partying and having sex and fornicating, and they really don't care about me. So how else am I going to get people's attention? How am I supposed to do that? How am I going to get people to change? Do you understand? Yeah, I could. Okay, then. Go on then. Okay, so Bitcoin. Let's have a quick look at Bitcoin then. Oh, not that one. This one. Oh, what the hell? Wait, hang on. Right. Okay. So Bitcoin is a hard chart to read. Okay. Yeah. Well, as you can see, Bitcoin is quite high up. It is. So, it is, personally, I prefer to have my money in Bitcoin. That's all I'm going to say for this, okay? I'm quite confident that this is going up. But if it doesn't go up, well, I'll be okay. I'll be fine. I'm not worried. Like I don't have to worry as much as other people do. I don't have any reason to worry about it, really. But what am I actually looking for? So I'm looking for Uh, so if I get rid of this. Oh, okay, 3 days, that'll do. So I'm looking for something like this. So this is what they call an inverse head and shoulders. So I'm looking for a pattern like this to play out. These are very common patterns, and I'm looking for price to come back up like that. A head and shoulders is, a normal head and shoulders is this. It kind of looks like, well, yeah, you know what it is. But you have a left shoulder, yeah, a left shoulder, a right shoulder, and this is the head, right? I know it looks a bit strange, but whatever. But this is inverse. Okay, it's an upside down head and shoulders. And what happens is when it gets to that line, it'll either break it or it won't. But my my view on Bitcoin is that it's probably going to go a lot further. Or at least I hope it does. Okay? But if you follow Jesus Christ, well, that's what you're supposed to do, right? Being a day trader isn't really what you're supposed to be doing, right? So, you should be but personally, I don't have a problem. If people want to put their money in Bitcoin and rather than leave it in a bank account, I'm not really, I don't really have a problem with that. But people who are just totally obsessed with trying to become rich, well, obviously that's that's not going to look very good, is it? But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm just pointing it out just in case you wanted to know my opinion on it. And Ethereum, what's happened to Ethereum? Well, a lot of people like Ethereum. I've never bought Ethereum before. Or at least I don't remember ever buying any. But as you notice, this has gone quite low. This has had quite a drop. So, it was up about $5,000. Now it's around 1,500. But I think when Bitcoin breaks out again, which is probably in the near future, probably in the next, well, I mean, personally, I think prices are they're going up from here, really. It's just that it will play out over the next few months. And, obviously I'm looking for that pattern that I talked about to play out. I've already got my money in Bitcoin anyway. I've had my money in Bitcoin for a long time. But eventually, I think probably Ethereum will pick up. It will just go like that. Probably. It's just that it's not as strong as Bitcoin. That's the thing. Ethereum isn't as good as Bitcoin. Bitcoin is better, in my opinion. It was first to market. It's solid, and it does what it's supposed to do. Okay. I mean, Ethereum just wants to, just be full of features and all sorts of stuff, but Bitcoin, it achieves what it set out to achieve, right? It's a digital currency. It works. It's a digital asset. However you want to look at it. And personally, I think, the people who, I just think Bitcoin's a better It's the best. It's my favorite. So, anything else I want to talk about while I'm here? Probably not. Um, uh, yeah, so, I mean, my best advice would be just, be careful with your money and, try to consolidate, try and deal with your debts. That would be my best advice for you, really. I don't have any debts, and I'm very glad I don't have a mortgage. I'm very glad I don't have to pay a loan on my car. I'm glad I don't owe anybody money. It's a very good position for me to be in. I'm not worried. I'm good. So, yeah. So have a think about that then. Okay. Um, as far as forex, so there's the pound against the dollar. Go on, let's have a look at some forex then. Forex is a very difficult thing, really. I mean, um, it is, and to me, it seems quite pointless, really. I mean, the fact is, I keep most of my money in Bitcoin. Um, I mean, the thing is, currencies, forex charts, they just move differently. They look totally different. I mean, there are some observable patterns, but it doesn't move the same way as commodities. I mean, this is like an A, B, C, but then it just tends to go sideways and it goes all over the place. You know what I mean? It just tends to move sideways more than up or down. So yeah, it's not very interesting. I find forex really boring, to be quite honest. Um, yeah. So whatever. Um, silver, yeah, gold and silver. I wouldn't waste your time with that. Oil, well, oil doesn't really seem to be doing much either. Yeah, I mean, oil is a very, yeah, I mean, there's really not that much going on with oil. Um, yeah, yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to go sideways for a while, really. It's not really going to do that much. Obviously, the high in 2008, that was at about 140 something dollars. I don't think it go. I don't think we'll see it go that high for a long time. So, so I don't think that would surprise many people. Anyways, I think that's pretty much anything. That's all the things I can. There's nothing else I want to talk about here, really. Um, maybe the dollar index. I mean, the dollar index. So it's the U.S. dollar against a basket of currencies. So it's used to measure the strength of the US dollar, basically. And yeah, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, look, you had this big move down here in sort of 2001 to 2008. So there's this big move down. So this was the dollar weakening, yeah. Um, and then we've had this channel where it's been moving sort of sideways. It's been going sideways up like this. You know, there could be a strong move coming down soon. That could happen. And with all the stuff that's happening with the US, with their markets, something like that might happen. So you might see the dollar getting weaker. But obviously, that is a guess. That's nothing more than a guess. Obviously, I should probably see most videos like these. They come with a disclaimer saying this is not financial advice and all that kind of stuff. I'm not advising you anything. Well, I'm advising you to follow Jesus, right? I was Jesus. I'm God, right? I'm telling you, do what you're supposed to do, right? I'm just telling you how bad the situation looks. I'm not telling you to be a trader. I'm not telling you to try to go get rich. In fact, I'm telling you to do the opposite, actually. If you don't know that, well, you're wasting your time here, obviously. Clearly. So I shouldn't even have to mention that, should I? Okay. So I'm gonna leave it there. Okay. So yeah. Maybe you found it useful.